So thank you very much, everyone, to being here a bit late during this day. I have this privilege, actually, to finally introduce our center. We are a very young center that started 1st of September, so we are 6 weeks young. As you see, we also have a very young director. So just a bit about our center, what is our focus. I have a privilege, actually, because I had a very good introduction, so I will not introduce the topic so much. You saw a very good overview of the additive manufacturing, what is done internationally, but also what we're doing in Sweden. And when it comes to our center, what is special today, you saw a lot about materials. What we see definitely at this stage is there is a really big need in the new materials for the additive manufacturing. If you look on the materials available, you will find around 12 alloys available. And if you remember slides from Peter before, they have around 2,000 alloys in their system. So I mean, there is a long way actually to satisfy all our end users with the manufacturing. So what is our vision? We would like to bring powder-based AM into the wider industrial application. And we would like Swedish industry in the broad aspects, not only members actually involved in the center, to utilize the beauty of this technology to expand the product portfolio and use this cost-effective technology to improve their competitiveness. And our mission in this way is to increase the use of powder-based additive manufacturing for the broad number of the applications. As you saw before, we focus mainly on the powder-based technologies. So primarily it is actually powder-based fusion with a laser or electron beam, but we also involve other powder-based technologies like the binder jetting that you saw nicely presented by Ralph before, as well as direct energy deposition. And what unites all of these technologies is the base material, is a powder. If you remember, first slide from Olaf, it actually was a forecast about additive manufacturing industry. And what you see everywhere that demand or manufacturing by additive will increase significantly. It will multiply, is going almost exponentially. As additive manufacturing is growing, this means that also demand on the base material is also growing. So this means that increasing is the number of materials as well as in the tonnage. And this is where are we timely focusing the additive manufacturing with the CAM2. So we would like to take place in the strong development of materials where forecasts say that volume of the powder for additive manufacturers should increase 5 to 10 times. But in order to increase 5 to 10 times, it means that manufacturing capacities has to increase as well as price has to decrease. Number of speakers also mentions that actually powder for AM these days is rather costly. It costs significantly more than conventional powder for additive. So natural questions would be actually why Sweden? We are not so big but not so small country in the north. It's because of the curvature. We are a bit north, so we seem not so big. But we are big in the powder production. We produce around 25% of the world production of the powder. Meaning that as a country we produce the highest amount of powder per capita. At the same time, if you look how much of powder we made for AM, it's not zero, but we don't make so much. And the reason, there are a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is, of course, tonnage. If you remember figures that Ralph mentioned before, coming to 500 million tons per year, this means that actually Höganäs in one day produce more powder than additive utilized per year. Means that we have a strong capacity, but there is still not really big market when it comes to the raw materials. So therefore, what we are focused in the center, we try to unite number of the countries, so most of the countries from Sweden, from different end user perspective, coming from the truck industry, higher temperature applications, aerospace, food industry, and so on. And what we would like to bring at the end, by the focusing on different research questions, is actually novel materials for additive manufacturing in the first place. We would like to increase variety of the materials for additive manufacturing. I will talk about this later, but also what is the beauty of additive manufacturing, you cannot develop material without process and post-processing, because all of these things goes hand in hand. So therefore we will also focus significantly on the development of the robust additive manufacturing. One of the big questions that was also faced today, one of the challenges that additive manufacturing faces these days is actually lack of the competence in the additive manufacturing, meaning that we don't have it in educations. We have to educate engineers on different levels. And this starts from bachelor level. It's of course PhD students we will hire, but it's also education on the post-educational level. We have engineers employed in industry that is working with additive manufacturing, and we have to bring all the knowledges from material and design perspective to the people already employed there. In order, of course, to qualify these products, we have to develop qualification and characterization in order to actually qualify these components for the applications. At the end, what we would like to see is, of course, broader industrial application and industrial integration of the additive manufacturing into the existing production lines. And at the end, we, of course, would like to identify new product areas. What was mentioned today is that product areas that are faced, we are still talking about the high-value components in the aerospace, high-temperature applications, in biomedical. If you look on the manufacturing we have in Sweden is much broader. So therefore, identifying proper products with the developed materials and methods would allow actually broader AM integration. So when it comes to our organization, we have 5 industrial partners, 5 research partners involved in our consortium. We have Chalmers coordinating this research. We have Fraunhofer Chalmers Center of Industrial Mathematics that is focusing on the simulation. We have University West with the focus on the powder, with the blown powder technologies. We have Linköping University here represented by Johan Moerare, focusing on the material models as well as the material characterization. And then we also have Hryha IVF with a special role to bring research that we do in a competence center on the pre-competitive base, lower tier level values, to bring it closer to the industry, or as we go to make a step over the DES value in the tier level, to make sure that actually materials and process we develop will be successfully employed by our industry. So we have a broad number of companies in our competence center. We have 22 members nowadays, so we have 3 different stages of companies. We have something that we call core members. It's a big company that makes the backbone of our center, that also forms the board of the center, where you see companies covering from the material supplier like Höganäs, Arcam, hardware supplier like Arcam, and number of the high-end end users. We also have ABB, who is actually now on the way to become one of the core members. Then we have a basic members. It's also big companies that participate in the center with a different part focused on the post-processing mostly, where we see Agalinde with heat treatment, we have Quintus Technologies with the hot isostatic pressing, and we have Riboverken with the machining. And then, of course, we have a number of the SMEs, because as we're saying, that SMEs will be the one who will actually reinforce or bring forward this technology into the application much faster. We have strong and dynamic research consortia. We are around 22 professors involved from different universities. We have around 14 doctors from the industry side who participate in our center. Because idea of the center is that we don't only work for the industry, we work together with the industry. And this is so number of our industrial partners are really far away, actually, far ahead in this development, and we would like to actually learn it together. We will also have 11 PhD students involved in the center, 11 full-time PhD students, where we also have a number of industrial PhD students from Linde, from Höganäs, and so on. And what is very important to remember is that what we have in Sweden and what we brought into the center is industrial know-how when it comes to the powder development. What we have to remember, what I showed you, we have a very strong capacity when it comes to the powder development and manufacturing that does not exist in any country of the world. And this is something that actually makes our center to be very well qualified in the international evaluations. This is why we came actually on top of this evaluation. We have, of course, also strong players in the hardware manufacturers. We have Arcam here in Gothenburg, not close to us. And we also, as you heard before, we have a strategic collaboration with the EOS, who is actually also leading company in the laser sintering. Then we have a number of the high-end manufacturing companies like Siemens, GKN, Sandvik, and so on, who is also participating in this center, as well as a post-processing. We have an international advisory board that we also selected based on their scientific record, as well as a strong profiling collaboration with the industry, who actually guide us in this process. And what is very important to remember that we are need-driven research, meaning that we have industrial board formed by our core members, one of the base members, and SME representatives, who actually determine strategy of the center. And my role is, as a director, I would call it more executive director, is actually to implement the strategy that is brought by our industry into life. So as I mentioned, our focus is on material development. So it starts, of course, from the basic thermodynamic simulation. What do we need from material? Characterization, process development, post-processing characterization, and going in this loop over and over again. And this was, as I mentioned before, this is what you have to do for additive. You have to cover a whole chain in order to develop functional material, not material possible for additive. And therefore, our research is actually based on the three main pillars. Powder metallurgy science, that is strong in Gothenburg between Chalmers and IVF. Advanced characterization, where we have strong characterization infrastructures placed at Chalmers and University of Linköping, as well as the process development and simulations that we have actually at FCC and University West. So if you look on our research, what is important, as I mentioned, we focus on powder development, but we will cover whole manufacturing chain of process development together with Arkham with EOS, post-processing together with Quinitus and Linde, as well as simulation in different parts. And last but not least is, of course, our internationalization. One of the main focus of the center, as we are called Competence Center, is actually competence development. Competence development on different stages, from graduate studies, PhD programs, as well as a post-AM education. And as you see, these seminars that I would count to be rather successful was actually built using our network. So we use our international and national network just to show actually what is the state of the art and what we can do in additive manufacturing. We connect to the top research universities in the world. Not all of them are here, of course, we are still expanding, as well as we try actually to have a collaboration with the companies that are on top in their profile in the world when it comes to additive, like EOS, GKN, EOS, and so on. So, this I would like to thank you all for listening, and all of our industrial partners. Most of them we are presenting here. And now I think Elizabeth has something